My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. All right, welcome back, everybody. Eli here. And today I have a cool gal that I met. It was actually, I think, October of this last year. And this is Bonnie Daneker. She has been sharing stories for more than 20 years as a publisher, a book coach, and a writer. Through her various companies, she has managed over 120 book client projects. And as a graduate of the Modern Elder Academy, she is excited about the transitions accompanying a creative's midlife. In addition to leading the Author's Greenhouse, she serves as a member of the board of directors for the Plano Symphony, is an ambassador to the Center of the Visual Arts and Design at UNT. And she and I had an awesome conversation at the Author Symposium, hit it off, and have become quick friends. So with that said, Bonnie, thanks for hanging out with me today.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah. So give us a little bit more, like what's all the exciting stuff and how did you get into the book publishing world?
Oh, I've been a writer my whole life, and my parents tell this wonderful story about me interviewing my neighbors when I was 4 years old. I would just
Okay.
walk around, and I think I may have even told you that before, but you can do things like that in a small town. It's kind of hard to do it these days, but I caught the bug early and wanted to know about people and about their stories and then share them. And it turned out that, I ended up sharing some of those stories with one of my neighbors who owned the publishing, the newspaper for our Tri-City area, and another man who was later on to be a Secretary of State for our state. So I had a
Okay.
newspaper person and a politician that were both kind of
Mhm.
encouraging me to pursue that, and followed along with an education in journalism, became a reporter for a little while, and then went back to the side where you make a little bit more money in marketing and product management, and really came back to writing when my dad got sick, and I ended up writing some books on caring for cancer patients. So as I
Okay.
took care of him, I thought maybe I can help others. In fact, he put that idea out there, and so those were my first 5 books, and I was able to help others with a literary consultancy that I founded in Georgia, the first of its kind. After I did a compilation with the women in technology and helped to tell their stories, right? So they gave me a snippet, and I helped them write books. And 20 odd years later, I've been fortunate to work with some incredible people to bring their stories to life and also sharpen my writing skills and my skills as a publisher and a publicist to make sure that those stories get out there and we really learn and grow from them.
That is awesome. So tell me a bit more about like the types of books that you're helping people with, because everybody has a different type of book these days. There's so much out there. And
Oh,
I know
yeah.
you kind of specialize in certain areas. Where are your book clients at in their journey?
The depth of my background has been in nonfiction,
Okay.
business, biography, and health and wellness, those
Okay.
three genres, and then several subgenres within that. Occasionally, I will take on a fiction work, or, I've worked with children's authors, and
Hmm.
I've worked with some romance novels, but generally I stay with the work that has an impact beyond just the enjoyment of reading it. So
Right.
most
Okay.
people read nonfiction to learn. So if
Hmm.
they are entertained by it, it's kind of a bonus. Most people read fiction to be entertained, and if they learn something, that's kind of a bonus. But I stayed mostly on the nonfiction. It is more formulaic, and it is something that we can please the reader a lot more readily,
Right.
because you have the subject matter expertise and you know how to organize the book to get them that information in a way that they're accustomed to
Hmm.
reading.
Right. No, and it's great, and thank you for clarifying that because I know there's so many publishers out here that do so many different things, and it's like, who is like there are publishers out there that I know that they might focus on children's books, or they focus on fiction novels and things like that, and it's like, okay, my clients that I'm working with are entrepreneurs. They're writing their expert book, and I'm like, okay, those guys are not the right fit for them. And so it's really important that people understand that not all publishers do all types of books. And
Well, it's our responsibility as
Mhm.
publishers to know what that landscape looks like. So
Right.
when we have a client that may want to showcase their business, their
Mhm.
core service offering, we need to tell them if there's something similar in the marketplace to complement or differentiate as they're creating their work, right? So it's up to us to know certain genres and subgenres and then
Mhm.
be able to help them place that for maximum exposure and then of course book sales.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as literally this week, my book went live on Amazon on Tuesday. We did pretty good with it. I got number 2 in one category, number 4 in 2 other categories. So that was fun.
I'm so
Um,
pleased.
yes,
Congratulations.
thank you.
That's great.
It was a lot of work, and I didn't, that's one of the things I want to bring this up because the fact, like, I did everything myself. So I went self-published 100%, and it's a lot of work. And I think that's it was good to do it for the fact that I know the experience, and I like to, if I'm going to work with somebody, I like to know what's going on to make sure that they're all doing their job right. But I can tell you that it is not for the faint of heart to try to do all this stuff yourself. Hiring a publisher is probably the one of the best things you could do to help you make sure that you got all of your bases covered and you understand the formatting of everything you need to do.
I worked with a woman who had a business slogan of do what you do best and let me take care of the rest.
Hmm.
And, I think that applies here because most authors aren't skilled at the business of authorship. They
Right.
don't know how to put the other pieces around their content. And so that's where a publisher comes into play and understands what kind of suppliers are out there, what the dollars are involved, and how they can really showcase the work in the midst of what the existing canon is, right? So, you can say, this book is a complement to another book, or this book is the newest and best, and here's what the reader can expect for it.
Right.
The writer sometimes doesn't have a purview into some of that landscape, and so it's really best to understand what your strengths are, right? Like I said,
Hmm.
the author
Yeah.
may not know that, but the publisher should.
Right. No, and I think that that's great. And there was a ton of research that I did in, figuring out like what categories to look at and where my book was going to fit into everything. And I think that, in today's world, everybody and their dog's an author. I mean, everybody has a book these days. But there are certain things that a lot of times, like, just having a book is definitely helpful. No question about it. But looking at the things above and beyond just getting something up on Amazon, because we all know there's a lot of garbage up there these days. And
Yes.
I think
And
that
it's hard to
that's,
know what's current and it's hard to know
yeah.
what's believable. And what we're looking at right now in the publishing industry is what is truthful and what is not auto generated, right? From
Right.
old content where, we use AI tools in good ways and maybe not so good ways, right?
Right.
So it's really difficult, and I agree with you. There are a lot of books out there. It seems like everyone has a book, but as a new writer or as a like a second time writer, you need to understand, how you can stand out amongst all of that competition. I
Mhm.
mean, really, that's the biggest reason to work with a publisher. And a
Right.
book coach will actually help you design the material in such a way that it's attractive, knowing all of those external factors.
Right. Nice. Now, with that said, I'd like to go ahead and go into a couple things. Like, if somebody's like, okay, I think I want to write a book, and they've got it in their heads, what are some of the first things they need to think about internally before they even look at hiring anybody else, that would, like, if you as a publisher, what is it that makes your life easier that you got an author that you actually enjoy working with and isn't a complete pain because they've done everything the wrong way? What, because I know you've got them. I know you've seen them before, guaranteed. Uh, so, what are some of the things people should be thinking about if they're just starting to get that inkling that they want to get a book together?
In a nonfiction book, we have somewhat of a recipe, and that is the rule of 12, where we try to present 12 ideas or concepts or steps to the reader that really encapsulate the body of knowledge that the author has. So, an author that comes to me, a writer that's just putting together his or her book, will come to me and say, I want to talk about this topic, and here are my 12 key points. And then have a description of the audience and have a description of where this book might fit in terms of categories, so genres and subgenres. Those are really helpful because we automatically can zero in on what they're trying to produce and who's got like information out there, or how we're going to create a new audience for this if it's a brand new concept.
Nice. I like that. And you brought it up because for me, when I was putting this one together, this is my third book. The first book I co-authored with my partner at the time. Second one was basically a sequel to that first one. And those books were literally, oh, okay, here's the overall arching idea. And then I just started writing.
Right.
And it was okay. I mean, and they turned out good. We did well with them. That was back in 2014. But this one, I did something that I hadn't done before. I sat down and actually put together a full outline of everything that I wanted and what the chapters were going to be about. And when I did that, I had, okay, here's my chapter, and this is the topic for the chapter, and then here's my three major points I want to make within that. And I did that with the whole thing. And when I looked at it, I'm like, this is going to be so easy to write.
Right.
And
Because
it,
once you get your three main points, then you can think of four things underneath that. That's again the rule of 12,
yeah,
right? So you can talk about customer examples. You can talk about steps before and after that key point. You can talk about the reasons for that key point. So there you go. You've got, things to write about
yeah,
each of that. And I know it sounds like 11th grade composition class in high school, but it really does help you organize your thoughts.
yeah,
Yeah. And
absolutely.
it's funny when you think about well, I think about some of the clients I've had over the years who've said, I want to write a book and I don't know how, and I'm really afraid of the red pen because I tried to write these essays in high school or college. It never went well, and it was
Mhm.
all full of ink like blood on the page. And the thing is that everyone has an opportunity to improve, but you've got to
Right.
start somewhere. And you've got to give yourself permission to do a crappy first draft, one that can be marked off, but that's where you grow.
Yeah.
And your book coach or your publisher or even your beta readers need to be able to tell you, frankly and honestly, if it flows, if it's valuable, if people are going to spend money for it, they're going to give you that kind of feedback that will sharpen that text and make it a good book for you.
Right. No, I love that. And that is such a critical thing, is to get that feedback one way or another, and make sure that it flows. Like for me, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. The beauty is I did give some chapters to a couple people because I wanted to get some endorsements that I could stick in the book as well. And every single one of them came back and they're like, this is not what I expected. This is so much better. And this sounds just like you. And I'm like, okay,
Oh,
I won.
perfect.
If nothing else, I won. Um,
Exactly. And
yeah,
that's so important.
yeah,
Protecting your voice
yeah.
is something that is critical, and it will separate some auto generated content from
Mhm.
authorized generated content, right?
Yeah,
So you have certain phraseology, or you have certain emotives, or you have certain cadence with sentence structure and length and so forth that it can be duplicated and replicated from prior work. But if you're continuing to grow and develop and mature as a business owner, with different types of clients, just growing your business,
right.
your work is going to change, your voice is going to change, your output is going to be different. And that's, auto generation does not advance unless it's given that content to pull from.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
we as humans, we can generate that now, and right now AI can't generate it. Maybe it will in the future, but yeah, that's really where you want to focus on. Is if you're going to write a book, make it be about something you know, and really make it full of your own personality and your
Yes.
experiences and your case studies and all of that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Especially your personality has to go in it because let's face it, the knowledge, especially in business, we all have 1,000 people that do what we do. The difference is how we do it, and our personality is what makes like well, that's what attracts our clients to us.
Exactly, the
And
purple knight,
E
right?
exactly, yeah. We were talking about that before we hit record. She asked, you asked me where the Purple Knight came from, and I told the story of how that came from. It's been 30 years. I've been known as the Purple Knight, and that was my first company was Night Times Designs, which was my web and graphic design agency. When I started this company, it came up Purple Knight, and it was like I got known as the purple knight in shining armor. That was kind of my moniker for the longest time. And now everything I have is still purple. And it stands out. It works. And when you can build that, and it's not about a color. Like for me, part of it is the color, but part of it is also my personality. When people get to know you, it's like as a writer myself, not just in books. Like I'm a writer. I love to write articles and post online and all kinds of stuff. And I actually ghostwrite for a lot of my clients' content for email marketing, that's my primary business. But I with that, I am like, okay, we need your voice. And I'm like, I'm not going to ask you questions so you can write them down because you don't talk the way you write because your English professor ruined that for you. You talk a whole different way, and we're going to write like you talk because that's where your personality shines. And
Exactly.
yeah,
And, in the permission to give yourself a crappy first draft, we should also remember that dialogue is messy,
yeah.
right? So in our formal publication, we really craft some beautifully correct conversations,
Hmm.
but in real life, they're not that perfect. So if we can
Yeah.
show that in
Hmm.
some of the more conversational emails or blogs or other type of marketing, it's very attractive to the listener because it sounds like what they would hear in a normal conversation.
Hmm. Yeah, very cool. Awesome. So if somebody's interested in working with a publisher, what are some of the things that they need to be like? What are a couple of the questions they should probably be asking when they're first talking to that person to figure out if that's the right publisher? Because the reason I even asked this is literally while I was having lunch before this call, a friend of mine in my network messaged me and said, "My boss is trying to get his book launched. He has a publisher he's working with, and there's a lot of problems going on. And I'm wondering if he could talk to you because he knew that I just published my book." And I'm like, I may not be able to help him, especially if he's on a contract with these guys, but I'm happy to have that conversation. But it made me think about before we jumped on this call. I'm like, okay, we should have a conversation. Is like, what are some of the things people need to be aware of and think about and have and ask the right questions before they engage a publisher? Because I think that's really
Yes.
good information not enough people know about.
And just to touch on your friend's situation, be mindful of that agreement. That's number one, because you don't want to get involved with a legal snare about your personal content. That is something really very critical. Um, you know, First, you need to do some preliminary research when you're looking at publishers. There are some wonderful books out there. There's the Writer's Digest guide for agents. There's a Writer's Guide to publishers, and those have categories of publishers, which kind of books they use, what their submission guidelines are, and what their workload looks like, as well as other books in their catalog. So if you can see your book right next to another book in their catalog, that would be probably a good indicator that this publisher is right for you. But you also need to talk to the publisher to see if they are accepting submissions at this time. So there are publishing calendars that are pretty custom to each publisher, even though Generally, American publishers publish early in the year and then later, like a January, February time frame, and August, September time frame, and then of course a bonus one in the holiday seasons. But if you are looking to have your book submitted in like a June timeframe, maybe they're not accepting at that moment, or maybe they're just too busy with their workload and they're holding off on submissions. So first thing is see if they are accepting submissions. Secondly, make sure that you know how to submit. Most publishers do not want you to send your manuscript forward. They want you to be recognized and represented by an agent. So that's where that second book that I just mentioned comes into, that directory of agents, where you follow the same kind of process to find those people that are working within your type of book, nonfiction or fiction, and then within your genre. So there are many, many types of books out there. You want the topic that's appropriate to you and sometimes the subtopic, right? And so these agents can, again, know your work, know the publishers that might be interested in your work, and see if they might find an acquisitions deal for you. So if you are wanting to talk to a publisher, you can mostly find some of these answers on their website. And then if you talk to them directly, if you're looking at a mid-size or small press, you need to find out what their compensation schedule is as well. So after you learn if they're accepting submissions, if they are interested in your topic, if they, have maybe space to consider your topic, then you look at how do people get paid if they are working with you. And usually there's a standard fee for acquiring the manuscript. There are some rights, and then there's a per book sale um, royalty that you would get, but of course you sometimes need to pay back the advance that they
Right.
give you. But all of them have some sort of agreement, and it's very important that you pay careful attention to that document so that you know what you're getting into. But if you're looking at traditional publishing, I definitely think that you should look at an agent first, because they will help you with all that negotiation, because
Okay.
it's in their best interest to get a smart, solid, lucrative
Mhm.
deal for you, because they get a percentage of what you get, and you want to pay them what they're worth.
Right. No, that's good because that's really good to know. Considering I've known people who go direct to publisher, but not had an agent in between to basically mediate everything. So that's actually really good tip for people. This is awesome stuff. Now we're getting close to time here, but I know you've got some other stuff you have been really doing a lot with in the brain health arena. I'd like to give you a couple minutes just to talk about that before we start wrapping up here. So tell me more about what's going on in that area.
This is something I've been interested in for a long time. As I've watched some women in my life, and a couple men too, but women in my life advance in age and lose some of their mental sharpness, their cognitive abilities. I've really questioned what I can do to keep my brain healthy. And Dallas has an amazing center for brain health and a couple of other organizations that really offer exercises and treatments and programs and so forth to do some fun things to actually keep your brain sharp. And this is important, I think, because it helps us to contribute, and it helps us still to be valuable members of the society. So you mentioned that I went to the Modern Elder Academy. And as I look at my publishing career in total, strong and really enjoyable, I understand that it's coming to a close, and I want to move on to a good place where the artistic and creative can still have meaning and have contribution. And one way that I think about that is keeping my mind sharp so that there will be substantive content that I can still share, right?
Right.
So we look at what will make a fulfilling life for us, and learning is a big part of that, right? To stretch your mind, to continue to learn, and then of course keeping your other parts of you healthy, making sure you have personal connections, maybe a faith connection, and adding love and then beauty in your life. So that's where the love and beauty piece for me fits back with bringing more art into my life at this
Hmm.
point. And it's also part of the cognitive strengthening is to look at different patterns, look at different expressions so that your mind can constantly be challenged. Your brain can constantly be acquiring new information, new skills, making new connections and new deductions that keep you strong and healthy. And
Cool.
I can't say it enough. If you have the time, get out there and see some art, listen to some gorgeous music,
Hmm.
experience theater. It's really, really very important to keep your mind healthy.
No, I agree with that 100%. And that's like for me, it's music. I love going to
Yes.
live music, not just listening to a radio, live music. It makes a world of difference. So that's cool.
Well, and my role with the Plano Symphony, I serve on the board of directors there, has been really enjoyable for me. I mean, my mother played concert piano. I grew up with piano, and of course the classics. And Plano Symphony takes that one step further to attract multi-generational audiences and doing things like video game scores and movie
Okay.
scores
Oh,
and
nice. That's fun.
dance companies and having kind of a multimedia experience where we haven't really seen that in symphonic performances before, or well,
Right.
at least North Texas. So it's kind of a leader that way. And again, that's multisensory stimulation, which is fantastic. And then I would also say that UNT, the University of North Texas in Denton,
Hmm.
their School of Music is one of the
The
most
best in
well
country.
regarded.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And there's a direct connection to the symphony there. But I also think the visual arts, the Center for Visual Art and Design, of which I'm a ambassador for, they have some incredible interdisciplinary and multimedia things going on there, especially with the handshake of what they can do for the business world. So there are some new innovations that connect creative thinking and design centered thinking to really advance how we're looking at processes, procedures, and output on the business side, and really connecting the best of both worlds.
Right. That is awesome. Well, thank you for sharing it. I knew that that's something that you're really passionate about, so I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that for a minute.
Thanks.
And definitely, so we're getting started to wrap up on time here. Last question is going to be the easy thing for people to get to hold of you. But before we do that, I always ask every one of my guests one question. This is the Meet Cool People show. What do the words "Meet Cool People" mean to you?
Uh, this is just part of that fulfilled life, right? Where you're going out, you're socializing, you're not being afraid to put yourself out there to meet someone new and someone cool that might be a little bit different than you, and someone of just people. Any kind of a person. I read a really neat sign the other day. It says, "One blood, all humanity." And I thought that was fascinating. So, meeting cool people means opening yourself up to interact with people who may not be the same as you, that might have different ways of looking at things and expressing things for your mutual benefit. So don't be afraid of somebody who's different from you and maybe learn and grow from it.
Awesome. Well said. I loved it. All right. So, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way that they can do that?
Honestly, the best way is LinkedIn. Reach out and connect to me and send me a DM there, and I will connect with you back and see if we can have a good, mutually beneficial conversation.
Awesome. Very cool. And I'll be sure to put that in the show notes. And definitely, if anybody's got questions about any of the stuff we talked about today, they can reach out to you there and hopefully they can help answer those questions for them.
Sounds perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bonnie. It was a pleasure having you on the show. And for everybody else that's out there, thank you for listening. Get out there, have an amazing week. And I look forward to talking to you later. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. Now, if you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, Go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rockstar.